What does a coach see that the rest of the world doesn't? That's the question South Korea is asking tonight. Because Hong Myung-bo looked at the most important match of his cycle, looked at his captain, his record appearance holder, his national icon, and left him in the dugout. Son Heung-min on the bench for the first time in 12 consecutive World Cup starts. The math didn't ask for this. South Korea needed 1 point. A draw against South Africa in Monterrey on June 24th secures second place in Group A and a round of 32 tie with Canada. Not a win. Not heroics. A draw, the kind of result you grind out in your sleep. Hong didn't want the safe road. He gambled, and the gamble lost. South Africa won 1-0. Bafana, bottom of the group days earlier, reduced to 9 men and beaten by Mexico in their opener, climbed to second and reached the World Cup knockout stage for the first time in their history. South Korea slipped to third. Now they wait for the group stage to finish before they know if they survive as one of the 8 best third-place teams. On the brink, not out, but on the brink. Here's the thing about the call, though. It wasn't crazy. That's what makes it interesting. Son is 33. This is his 4th World Cup. Almost certainly his last. He is South Korea's record cap holder. 144 appearances, 56 goals, the greatest player his country has ever produced. And at this tournament, he has been a ghost of himself, hooked in the 69th minute against Czechia, off in the 57th against Mexico. In both games, he had the fewest touches of any South Korean starter, 37 against the Czechs, just 19 against the Mexicans, 19 touches. A winger who once terrified defenders with raw pace, now suffocated through the middle, marked out of games he used to decide. He hasn't scored for LAFC in 13 league matches. He went through 2 World Cup games without creating a single big chance, so Hong made a choice. He replaced Son with Oh Hyun-gyu, the substitute who'd scored the winner against Czechia, and he had a theory he'd save Son. Bring him on later, fresh legs against tired ones, into the gaps that open when a defense starts to crack. It's a reasonable theory. It's the kind of thing that gets called genius when it works. It didn't work. South Korea started bright without him. Second minute stand-in captain Kim Min-jae rose to a Lee Kang-in corner and powered a header goalward, cleared off the line by Aubrey Modiba, inches from going in. 6 minutes later, Lee Kang-in lashed one just wide. Early energy, early promise, then the game turned. South Africa, the supposed underdogs, started looking like the team more likely to score. Korea had the ball, 68% of it, and did less with it. Possession without a point. The warning signs piled up. In the 51st minute, Lee Han-beom had to throw himself in front of a Thapelo Maseko shot. Maseko again. Always Maseko. Hong brought Son on at halftime. Not late, into a tiring defense the way he described it, but at the restart when South Africa had just come back fresh from the break. His own plan abandoned at the first sign of trouble. Son got more involved, 29 touches in the second half. Exactly one of them inside the penalty area. And then, the 63rd minute, Shipang Moremi, seconds after coming on, burst down the left, cut inside, slid a pass across the box. Maseko was waiting. One touch to set himself, the next a low shot arrowing past the keeper's dive. 1-0, it was enough. Hong threw everything forward. Changed the system, sacrificed Kim Min-jae for a deep-lying playmaker, pushed his midfield up the pitch, cross after cross into the box. None of them had the guile to break a South African defense that simply refused to bend. Bafana held on, a deserved win. Even the Korean press didn't pretend otherwise. And to feel how big that win was, you have to know where South Africa started. Day 1, the tournament opener in Mexico City. They were torn apart. 2 players sent off, Svefalo Sithole, then Themba Zwane, the first side to finish a World Cup opener with 9 men since Cameroon in 1990. They lost 2-0 and created, by the expected goals count, almost nothing, 0.07. A team staring at a 4th straight World Cup that ends in the group, just like the other 3. Just like the year they hosted it. Then, against Czechia, trailing late, Pavel Sulk's arm got in the way of a cross, and Teboho Mokoena drilled the penalty, South Africa's first World Cup goal in 16 years. From 9 men and nothing, to a point to this, that's the climb Hugo Broos just completed against a side that only needed to stand still. Let's be fair to Hong, because someone has to be. When Son came on, he didn't change anything either. No spark, no moment. The talisman has been poor all tournament, and starting him might have produced exactly the same flat, toothless 90 minutes. Maybe this isn't a story about one selection at all. Maybe it's a story about an aging side that scored once in 3 matches and got outfought by a hungrier team. The benching is the headline. It might not be the cause, but try telling that to a man with this particular history, because here's where it gets heavy. Hong Myung-bo was also the coach in 2014, the World Cup where South Korea failed to win a single game, their worst showing since 1998. He carried that ghost into this tournament, and now, at his post-match news conference, the Korean press were waiting for him. An unacceptable result, one said. Dismal, said another. Those were the first 2 questions. Hong, crestfallen, called it their worst game of the tournament. His words about his own team after his own gamble, and the squad he was managing wasn't a calm one to begin with. Rewind to June 7th. An open training session in Guadalajara. A hot mic, the broadcaster's own equipment, picked up 2 voices mocking Son. One reportedly said he ran like a platoon leader. The other followed with an expletive aimed at players who hadn't done full military service. A woman off camera can be heard warning them the mic was live too late. You have to understand what that means in South Korea. Military service is close to sacred. Roughly 21 months, mandatory for able-bodied men. Son was legally exempted only because he captained the country to gold at the 2018 Asian Games, then completed a 3-week Marine Corps training course in 2020 during the pandemic, saluting in uniform in photographs the whole nation saw. To mock that on camera days before a World Cup, the squad took it as an insult to their captain's honor. They shut down. A player-led media blackout. Son walked through the mixed zone after the Czechia win, stone-faced, and said nothing to the domestic press. A media officer reportedly resigned. So Hong didn't just walk into a tactical decision. He walked into a dressing room already at war with the outside world, managing a fading icon, carrying his own 2014 baggage. The benching didn't come from nowhere, it came from a camp that was already cracking. And here's the cruelty of the new format. South Korea didn't lose their way out of the tournament. Not yet. With 3 points and a goal difference of -1, they sit in the queue for the 8 best third-placed spots, a queue that only settles once all 12 groups finish. Other countries, in other cities, will decide their fate without ever touching a ball against them. A late goal in a game Korea has no part in, a yellow card in a match they will never watch live, could be the thing that sends them home or keeps them alive. They have done their work, now they wait on strangers. A team built around the most decorated footballer in its history, reduced to refreshing a table and hoping. That is what the gamble bought them. Not elimination, but limbo. And that's the part that lands hardest if you've followed this player for any length of time. Think about who Son Heung-min has been. This is the man who scored against Germany in 2018 to knock the defending world champions out of their own tournament. The man who captained Korea to the round of 16 in Qatar, playing in a protective mask after an orbital fracture because he refused to miss it. The boy who watched the 2002 semi-final at home and said the whole country went crazy, who named Park Ji-sung and the 2002 run as the thing that made him want this life in the first place. He told an interviewer once that the one World Cup match in history he'd most want to have attended was Korea's semi-final against Germany, the night Asia reached the Final Four for the only time ever. That kid grew up to carry the team that 2002 inspired. And tonight he watched from a plastic seat as a different nation made its own history at his expense. If you've ever watched a great career reach, the part nobody wants to film, the part that's 19 touches and a substitute's bib instead of a farewell goal, you know the silence hanging over the Korean camp right now. Tell me in the comments, was Hong brave or reckless? Is there even a difference once you've lost? And do you think Son deserved to start his last World Cup match, or had the moment already passed him by? Drop your verdict. If you want the tournament broken down without the noise, subscribe. The final group games could still rescue all of this or end it for good. Because pull back far enough, and this stops being about one coach or one captain. South Korea has reached a World Cup knockout stage exactly 3 times in 70 years, 2002 at home, 2010, and 2022, and never once won a knockout match on foreign soil. South Africa, the team they just lost to, had never reached the knockouts at all until tonight. 2 countries, opposite directions, 1 result. Hugo Broos built belief out of a side that started with 9 men and nothing. Hong reached for cleverness when all he needed was a draw and got a hard look at the end of an era he isn't ready to admit is ending. A draw was all they needed. They reached for more. And the World Cup, as it always does, kept the receipts.